Hey everyone, Clarence Caldwell here, and life is good. Don't you agree? Life is so good. If you agree, go ahead and put that in the comments below. Life is good, and tell me where you're from when you say that. So life is good in LA, if you're from LA. Life is good in Virginia. Life is good in Iowa. Where are you from? If you put that in the comments below, life is good. It is so good. If you believe that, go ahead and type that in. Also, understand why life is good. I love life. Life is so good because I love life, and life loves me back. You see, you got to give love if you want to receive love. You know, when you love someone, you tell them, don't you? Hey, I love life. If you tell someone you love them, then it really resonates and it goes back and forth. I was standing in the mirror, shaving earlier today, and I just looked at myself and I said, I love you. Yeah, I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but let me tell you something. You got to love yourself first. If you don't love yourself, how's anybody else going to love you? If you don't love yourself, how can you give love to someone else? That's not only a personal thing, it really is a leadership thing also. You must love yourself before you can move forward to love others. Now, we're going to talk today about emotional intelligence. We talked about the TEACH model last week. Emotions are so important. So you got to just name life being good, loving life, name it, proclaim it, take it, claim it. Life is yours. Now, I know all of us have something going on in our lives. There's not a person that's walking on this planet that doesn't have something going on in their lives that they would rather not have. Everyone from a baby all the way up to the oldest person on the planet, everybody's got something going on. That ought to tell you something. Life is still good though, isn't it? Life is good. So I want you to resonate with that first, because when we talk about emotional intelligence tonight, we're going to talk about being aware of how good life is for yourself and for others. Okay, so let's get right into it. First of all, we talked last week about the TEACH model. If you don't remember, thoughts, emotions, actions, you have a choice to be happy. This is the basis of it, but the biggest piece of this is the emotional part of it. And so that's why we're going to talk about emotional intelligence. I will tell you that based on some of the work that many people have done, there's a lot of work out there on emotional intelligence. You'll find some of it in my book, Escape from Average. The first chapter, I talk about emotional intelligence in it. But a lot of my work has been based on a couple of authors. There's scholars. Daniel Goleman is one, a PhD out of Boston, Massachusetts, where he's done a lot of work on defining what it is, and he's done some work on how to apply it. I actually refer this book to my clients because it's a basis for leadership as well. And if you're going to be a transformational leader, you must know yourself well enough and have the emotional intelligence to lead others. And you can develop that. All right, so let's talk about what it is, because Goleman talks about what he calls the 5 competencies of emotional intelligence, and I'll share them with you here. If you can see this, there are, we'll just call it an acronym for lack of a better term. So emotional, there's SSMESS. One way to remember it is to, let's say there's me in here, right? Me and the 4 S's. How's that? Me and the 4 S's. Or if you're a military person, like I was in the Navy, we had ships that were always SS, right? SS mess, okay? So we're going to get you off the SS mess and into a level of healthy emotional intelligence tonight. So if you're ready for that, hang on. I'm going to try to do this in the allotted 10 minutes that I always want to do it, but there's a lot to cover here, and I want you to really understand it. We're not going to go deep. If you want to go deep, get my book, get Goleman's book, come talk to me. We can go deep on any of it. But the first S stands for self-awareness. Self-awareness is so important. If you know yourself, when you show up, how do you show up? When you walk into a room, what's going on there? How are you perceived and how are you showing up? Self-awareness is so important. If you, I think about people at restaurants, and when I see someone, so every now and then I see someone eating with their mouth open. It kind of drives me crazy because I was always taught not to chew with your mouth open. Have you noticed that? You can not only hear what they're doing, but you can see what's going on. It's like, so don't look, don't listen. But that's a person that's not quite self-aware that that's an issue, and that's okay. The second S is for self-regulation. Again, these are the 5 competencies of emotional intelligence, and being able to not only be aware, but also be able to regulate. So if you're at a restaurant and you are aware that you eat with your mouth open, maybe in a restaurant in a public place, you want to regulate that. You want to, not comply and not just be worried about what everyone else thinks, but just being able to regulate. One example came to me as I was working out this morning. I get on the treadmill and I always watch something that's kind of mindless, something that has a lot of humor in it when I'm working out, so the time goes by. And I was watching this series. Every day I'm watching all the way from season 1, Parks and Recreation. If anybody ever see Parks and Recreation, funny show. And it's very old, but it still makes me laugh. And laughter is very important. Laughter is so very important. Norman Cousins say it's therapy. In fact, you can heal yourself with laughter. So anyway, I was watching an episode, and there was a park ranger who has this way of talking, and he talks really loud, and everything he says is so very loud, and he doesn't even mean to be loud, but that's the only thing he knows. And it just drives everybody crazy. That's someone who is not self-aware, right? And if he was self-aware, he is not self-regulating. He's not toning it down based on that awareness. So those 2 pieces are very important as part of our intelligence, our emotional intelligence. And then there's this issue of motivation. So motivation is really knowing what it is that motivates you. Now, typically it's like money or love. Those are the big things that motivate us. But there's a lot of little things that motivate us as well. Being connected with others, being recognized, being appreciated, being valued, contributing. Whatever it is that motivates you, you must know what that is, because it will drive you and it'll drive some of your behavior. And so just being aware, that's part of the self-awareness. Knowing what motivates you also is very important. Now, the fourth area of the 5 competencies is empathy. Now, I kind of think this is one of the more important ones. Now, they're all very important, don't get me wrong, and they all work together for this thing called emotional intelligence. But empathy is this one thing that you kind of recognize right away. In fact, you not only can recognize it in yourself, but you can see it in others also. So let me give you an example of where empathy might reveal itself. Not too long ago, there was a bomb scare in Hawaii with all this stuff going on with North Korea and the US. There was a message sent out on everyone's cell phone that there was bombs coming. And so it turned out to be an error. It was a mistake. So how did you react to that once you heard that story? The question that I asked someone, how they reacted to it. What is it, did you hear about that bomb story? Now, my own personal reaction was, I can't even imagine what these people must have been going through. To hear that show up on your phone, oh my gosh, that had to be not only scary, but I started to feel that. I asked another person and they said, well, it was fake, wasn't it? See, there's a very big difference in being able to connect or not connect. Here's another example that might strike home for you. We've had these shootings in schools lately. And when people talk about those shootings, and they go into detail to talk about the shootings, sometimes you'll see the tears will well up in their eyes as they're talking about it. That's because they're connecting emotionally with what's going on. Now, there are other people who talk about it and they're just very matter of fact about it. Well, there's a mental illness, and the first responders did this and that. And so there's a very different level of empathy going on there. And neither is right or wrong. So I'm not being critical. Please don't take this as being critical of either response, because there's a time and place for both. In a crisis, if something is going on right here in a crisis, I don't want somebody that's really empathetic and trying to figure out how I feel about these situations. I want somebody who's going to take control and take action. But there are other times when I don't need that, and I do want someone to connect with. So it's not a judgment whether high empathy or low empathy is good or bad, but understand there is a scale for empathy as a part of the emotional intelligence. I think that's so very important. Another way of looking at it, and I don't want to spend too much time on empathy, but hopefully you're getting the message. Someone has fallen down a well. Now there's a person standing above the well who says, oh, that's got to be bad. That's got to hurt. I feel sorry for you. That's sympathy. There's another person that literally jumps down in the well with the person. Not literally, but metaphorically, jumps in the well with the person because they're feeling what that person's feeling. That's empathy. So that's an example that was given to me not too long ago. Thanks, Maggie, for that. But anyway, empathy is a very important part of the emotional intelligence. And then the last piece, and I know I'm running out of time here, so I'll make this quick. The last piece is social skills. That's why it's two S's together. Social skills. When you show up, are you aware? Are you able to regulate? And what are your social skills? How do you interact with people? The combining of all of these is the emotional intelligence that we might have. Now, it's important to know this about yourself, and it's important to know it about other people. Typically, you can find other people's empathy point when you have a little bit of conversation with them because of how they respond to what's going on in other people's lives and in their own. And that is not that's actually, it's empowering because it allows you now to say, you know what? That person's not that much of a jerk. They just have a low level of empathy. I get that. And none of us have a high level of all of this. Well, some of us might have higher than others, but understand we're all at different places on these 5 competencies. And so our level of emotional intelligence is different from each other. And recognizing that is an important step to making a better connection with each other. And if you're going to be a better leader, you want to be a transformational leader, you must understand this. You must understand yourself as it relates to these things. If you're going to lead others, you've got to have that in place. All right, so that's it. I may have gone over the 10 minutes. I can't see the clock from here. But I hope that was helpful. Comment below if it was. We're going to try and do this again. Don't forget, go to my website, clarencecaldwell.com, get Escape from Average. And I do recommend these other books by Goleman on emotional intelligence, as well as there's one called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. I've done a lot of research on it, scholarly writings and dissertations and all those things I've been looking at to do the research. If you like this, go ahead and click like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you'll get a lot more great videos from me. So that's it for now. Have a great week. Love yourself. We'll talk to you next time.